There's a silent thought that decides how much you'll earn in life, and it kicks in before you even realize it. It's not about lack of effort, and it's not bad luck. It's a mental pattern that makes you sabotage yourself while thinking you're just being cautious. Maybe you work hard, try to save, avoid risks, and still feel like money never stays, like any progress is only temporary. This doesn't happen because you're doing everything wrong, but because your mind has learned to operate in survival mode, and survival never builds wealth. I've seen this pattern up close, in intelligent, hardworking people with lots of potential. The problem was never their capability. It was how they viewed money, opportunities, and, most importantly, their own sense of worth. In today's video, I'm going to show you the invisible idea that keeps people financially stuck, and how to break this cycle before it keeps shaping your future without your permission. Stick with me until the end, because once you identify this thought, your relationship with money will never be the same. 1. Scarcity mindset, the thought that keeps you poor. Most people believe financial problems start with their paycheck, the government, or the economy. But the real block is the mental pattern silently running every day inside your head. When you constantly feel like it's never enough, your brain switches into survival mode. In that state, everything feels urgent, short-term thinking takes over, and the future becomes a distant abstraction. That's how poor decisions start to look like smart choices. Researchers at Harvard University, like Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir, studied exactly this phenomenon. They analyzed people under financial pressure and measured their cognitive performance in logic and self-control tasks. The results showed that scarcity consumes mental bandwidth, like a system overloaded with too many tabs open. It drastically reduces your ability to plan, save, and make rational decisions. It's not about lack of character or intelligence, it's a drained brain. Now look at the contrast between a poor mindset and an elite mindset. While many people think money is never enough, wealthy people think, where are the hidden opportunities? A mind stuck in scarcity sees threat in every expense and fear in every investment. A mind trained for abundance sees levers, paths, and possible combinations. Over time, that difference becomes destiny. This pattern works like a self-fulfilling prophecy without you even noticing. People who believe money always runs out act defensively, reactively, and emotionally. People who believe opportunities can be created act more calmly, strategically, and with long-term vision. The outside world starts responding to the kind of decision you repeat every day. The game doesn't change from the outside in, it changes from the inside out. There's a simple yet extremely powerful technique to break this mental cycle. Every day, consciously list 3 financial opportunities available that day, even small ones. These aren't distant dreams, they're real possibilities. Learning something new, adjusting a spending habit, starting a strategic conversation. This exercise forces your brain to shift from problem mode to creation mode. You train your focus on expansion, not scarcity. After a few weeks, something quiet starts to change. Anxiety decreases, your thinking becomes clearer, and decisions stop being impulsive. You begin to feel more in control, even before any major external financial change happens. This is what almost nobody understands about wealth. It starts as a sustained mental pattern. Those who master their mind inevitably begin to master their money. 2. Is money evil? The moral belief that limits your wealth. Few people realize it, but one of the most destructive beliefs about money isn't economic. It's moral. From a young age, many people learn that wanting money is a sign of greed, that talking about wealth shows poor character, and that becoming too successful changes people. These messages don't enter as conscious opinions. They get installed as emotional codes. The result is a quiet internal conflict. The person wants to grow, but feels guilty when they start getting close to money. In financial psychology, this pattern is called money avoidance. Behavioral studies show that individuals with this belief tend to avoid numbers, ignore bank statements, procrastinate on investments, and even reject income opportunities. Not because they don't know what to do, but because dealing with money triggers emotional discomfort. The brain associates prosperity with something morally wrong and creates escape mechanisms to relieve that internal tension. What's most curious is that this conflict is rarely conscious. The person says they want to earn more, but in practice charges less than their worth, avoids negotiating salaries, feels anxious about investing, and prefers not to look at their own net worth. It's a sophisticated form of self-sabotage that looks like humility, but is actually fear disguised as virtue. Money might come in, but it never finds the psychological structure to stay. Now notice how rich and financially mature people see this issue in a radically different way. They don't romanticize money, nor do they put it on a moral pedestal. To them, money is a tool, just like time, energy, or influence. A tool isn't good or bad. It simply amplifies the intent of the person using it. This perspective completely changes how they make financial decisions. When money stops being seen as something dirty or dangerous, the mind becomes more logical and less emotional. Investing stops feeling like a moral risk and becomes a strategic decision. Charging your worth no longer brings guilt. It becomes an act of coherence. Wealthy people don't feel bad for prospering because they don't tie wealth to identity. They see it as function. They understand that more resources mean more options, not less ethics. There's a simple but powerful technique to reprogram this belief. Whenever the automatic thought arises, money corrupts, or thinking about money is greedy, consciously replace it with, money is a tool for choices and impact. Not as an empty affirmation, but as a repeated cognitive restructuring. The brain learns through logical repetition, not momentary inspiration. When this shift happens, something deep begins to realign. Your relationship with money becomes more neutral, calmer, and more strategic. You stop running from the numbers and start making clear decisions. Prosperity stops feeling like a threat to your identity and starts being a natural consequence of your competence. In the end, it's not money that diminishes people. It's the unconscious guilt that keeps them small. 3. Deserving identity. One of the biggest blocks on the path to wealth is how you see yourself. One of the biggest blocks we encounter on the path to wealth lies within our own identity. Many people carry a deep, almost invisible belief that they don't deserve to prosper. This block is so powerful because it's not based on a lack of effort or opportunity, but on how we see ourselves and feel about our own worth. When the mind internalizes the idea that wealth is something that's not for me, doors start closing before we even try to open them. Psychology explains this through a concept called deserving beliefs. This means our ability to attract success and wealth is directly influenced by how much we believe we deserve those things. People who see themselves as deserving of success act assertively, make tough financial decisions, allow themselves to invest in their own growth, and don't feel guilty for wanting more. On the other hand, those who don't feel worthy of wealth tend to behave in ways that automatically sabotage their chances of achieving success. They avoid investing, delay important decisions, and even engage in subtle forms of self-sabotage, as if they were blocking their own financial happiness. This pattern begins forming early in life. Often, the messages we receive about money during childhood come from parents or close figures, and they can be either positive or negative. If you grew up hearing phrases like, "money doesn't bring happiness," "people with a lot of money must have done something wrong," or "we don't need all that, what matters is being happy," you likely developed a financial script that defines your relationship with wealth in a very limited way. And once this script is installed, it runs unconsciously in your mind until you notice it and make the decision to rewrite it. In practice, this translates into a cycle. The more you believe you don't deserve, the more you avoid the opportunities that come your way. You might even start working harder, but for the wrong reason. You're not working to create more for yourself, but simply to survive, without ever allowing yourself to thrive. You feel uncomfortable asking for more, placing yourself in positions of power, or charging what your work is truly worth. That's the belief of non-deserving in action. And the saddest part is that often, it happens unconsciously. The person doesn't even realize they're holding themselves back because they believe that's the only right way to live. Now let's look at people who break through that barrier. Those who manage to achieve true financial independence usually go through a process of mental reprogramming around worthiness. They consciously decide that they are worthy of wealth. And I'm not talking about a sense of worthiness based on status or ego, but one grounded in the understanding that money is a tool for greater and more positive impact on the world around them. They understand that success doesn't diminish anyone, and that building wealth can benefit everyone, not just themselves. To reprogram this belief, one of the most powerful tools is journaling, or keeping a financial self-affirmation diary. The daily practice of writing about what you deserve can be transformative. Start with small affirmations like, I deserve to be prosperous. I am capable of reaching my financial goals. Or, wealth helps me help others. Write every day, be consistent, and allow your mind to get used to the idea that wealth isn't something out of reach. It's a natural consequence of your actions and worth. Over time, you'll start to notice that the feeling of being unworthy of wealth begins to fade. Opportunities that once felt distant or unattainable will start to feel within reach. And most importantly, you'll begin to act according to this new perception. Money will start flowing into your life more freely because you finally allowed it to. By changing your identity and your internal beliefs about what you deserve, the world starts responding to a new version of you, more confident and ready for abundance. However, this process isn't instant. It takes time, patience, and consistency. But once you reprogram your beliefs about deserving, results start to show up naturally. Financial success, which once felt far away, becomes just a matter of time. And you'll realize that when you allow yourself to prosper, you don't just change your life. You change the lives of those around you too. That is true wealth. A positive cycle of abundance that spreads and multiplies. 4. Focus on spending instead of saving. One of the most common patterns among people who never build wealth isn't that they earn too little. It's that they spend as an emotional response. Consumption becomes a release valve for stress, frustration, and anxiety built up throughout the week. Buying something new gives an immediate sense of relief and control, even if it doesn't last. The brain learns quickly: emotional discomfort, spending, temporary relief. This cycle might seem harmless, but it eats away at any chance of long-term financial growth. From a behavioral standpoint, this happens because immediate pleasure activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine. The problem is that dopamine is short-lived, quick, and addictive. Each new purchase needs to be slightly bigger or more frequent to create the same effect. Meanwhile, the invisible cost grows: less available capital, less room to invest, and more emotional dependence on spending. The person doesn't realize they're trading future freedom for temporary comfort. The opposite of this pattern is simple to understand, but hard to practice. Wealthy people don't build assets through lucky breaks, but through repeated control and consistency over time. They feel the same urge to spend, but have learned not to act on it immediately. There's a huge difference between having a desire and acting on it. The financial elite trains the ability to delay gratification in exchange for greater power of choice in the future. This delay is not deprivation, it's strategy. Long-term thinkers understand that every dollar not spent today is a potential soldier working for them tomorrow. Investing requires capital, and capital only exists when spending stops being automatic. Most people only look at the price of things, not the opportunity cost. The true cost of an impulsive purchase isn't the amount paid. It's what that money could have become over time. One extremely effective technique to break this pattern is the 30-day rule for non-essential purchases. It works in a simple but powerful way. Whenever the urge arises to buy something that isn't necessary, wait 30 days before deciding. In most cases, the desire fades completely. This teaches the brain that not every impulse needs to be fulfilled. Over time, you regain emotional control and clarity about what truly matters. When this habit takes root, something shifts in your relationship with money. You feel less urgency, less anxiety, and more autonomy over your choices. The pleasure no longer comes from spending. It starts coming from the sense of control and progress. Real wealth isn't about never spending. It's about spending with intention. Those who master immediate impulses build something much rarer than status: sustained financial freedom. 5. The just world hypothesis, the comfortable belief that holds you back. There's an extremely comforting belief that keeps many people exactly where they are. The idea that the world is naturally fair and that if someone is rich, it's because of luck, privilege, or some invisible advantage. This narrative lifts the weight of personal responsibility and offers a simple explanation for personal stagnation. After all, if wealth is just luck, then there's not much to do besides wait or complain. The problem is that this belief doesn't just soothe you, it paralyzes you. In cognitive psychology, this is tied to the concept known as the just world hypothesis, the tendency to believe that people get exactly what they deserve, for better or worse. In financial terms, this quickly morphs into beliefs like, if I'm not rich, it's because the system won't allow it, or people who got rich had something I'll never have. This type of thinking drastically reduces initiative because it frames lack of results as something beyond your control. When someone believes that wealth is almost exclusively the result of luck or privilege, the practical outcome is passivity. They study less, try less, invest less, and persist less. Not because they're lazy, but because deep down, they don't believe consistent effort can change the game. The brain doesn't invest energy where it sees no real chance of return. This belief kills action before the first step is even taken. Now look at how high-performing people think differently. They don't deny that inequalities exist or that everyone starts from different places, but they don't adopt that as an identity. Their focus is always on the question, what's within my control right now? Instead of blaming failure on abstract forces, they analyze strategy, execution, and decisions. That mindset keeps them in constant motion. The same applies to success. Financially mature people attribute positive results to a combination of effort, consistency, and well-made choices. This is important because it reinforces a sense of internal control. When you believe your actions influence your outcomes, you become more resilient, more strategic, and less emotional. This attitude creates progress even in tough environments. A simple practice to rewire this belief is to shift how you interpret failures and successes. When something goes wrong, instead of thinking, the world is unfair, ask yourself, what could I adjust in my strategy? When something goes right, instead of crediting only luck, recognize the effort and execution involved. This isn't self-delusion. It's cognitive training to keep your internal control active. Over time, this shift in attribution completely transforms your financial posture. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start creating momentum with what you have. The feeling of powerlessness is replaced by clarity and consistent action. People who build wealth rarely believe the world is fair. They believe consistent decisions compound. And that belief alone already puts you ahead of most. 6. Confusing success with appearances. One silent mistake that drains wealth is confusing success with appearances. Many people don't want financial freedom. They want to look successful in the eyes of others. An expensive car, brand name clothes, vacations bought on credit, and a lifestyle that impresses on the outside but suffocates on the inside. The problem isn't liking nice things. It's using consumption as proof of personal worth. When validation comes from the outside, money becomes a stage, not a tool. Showing off is born from constant comparison. Social media amplifies this by displaying carefully edited highlights of lives that always seem at their peak. The brain compares its own behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel and concludes it's falling behind. To ease that feeling, many people spend more than they can, trying to shrink the symbolic gap between me and them. That kind of spending isn't rational, it's emotional, and it almost always happens at the worst possible time. The real cost of showing off doesn't show up on your monthly statement. It shows up over the years. Every decision to look rich today delays your ability to be rich tomorrow. Long-term installments, expensive upkeep, and inflated habits consume capital that could be building wealth. It's the classic mistake of trading assets for liabilities while thinking you're leveling up. In reality, you're working harder to maintain an image, not to gain freedom. The social opposite of this pattern is far less glamorous, but far more powerful. Truly wealthy people focus on net worth, not applause. They ask, how much do I own? How much do I owe? What's the real difference between those numbers? Lifestyle is a consequence, not the goal. That's why many millionaires go unnoticed while quietly building long-term advantage. This mindset requires emotional maturity because it means giving up immediate validation. It means driving a regular car when you could impress, living below your means, and saying no to expenses that don't make strategic sense. To an untrained mind, this looks like lack of ambition. To those who understand the game, it's self-control and long-term vision. The financial elite would rather be underestimated than trapped by unnecessary expenses. A practical technique to escape the trap of appearances is to track your net worth monthly. Add up all your assets, subtract all your liabilities, and monitor that number over time. That metric doesn't lie, and it's not impressed by status. When your focus shifts to that indicator, your decisions shift too. You stop spending to look like someone and start building to become someone. 7. Living in the present while ignoring the future. There's a powerful psychological bias that explains why so many people know what they should do with money, but do the opposite. It's called time discounting or present bias. In practice, the brain heavily favors immediate rewards over future benefits, even when the future rewards are significantly greater. That's why spending now feels more appealing than investing, even when you know investing is the smarter choice. This bias isn't a lack of discipline, it's biological programming. Our brains evolved to survive in environments with immediate scarcity where tomorrow was uncertain. The problem is that this old programming is still running in a world where financial decisions have compound effects over decades. When you choose to spend today, your brain gets instant gratification. When you choose to save, you feel almost nothing. The lack of immediate pleasure makes the future feel irrelevant. In financial life, this shows up in phrases like, "I'll start later," "when I earn more," or "just this month." Each isolated decision seems small, but the compound effect is devastating. The money you didn't invest today doesn't just lose its current value. It loses all the growth it could have generated over the years. The true cost of present bias is invisible because it happens in the future you're ignoring. Financially successful people think the opposite way. They train their minds to give more weight to the future than to the impulse of the present. This doesn't mean living without joy. It means choosing consciously when joy is worth the cost. They understand that their future self is an asset that needs protection. Every decision is made as if the future is sitting at the table too. One of the most effective strategies for overcoming this bias is to remove decision-making from the process. Automating investments means taking your emotional brain out of the equation. When money is automatically transferred into investments before it even shows up as available balance, the impulse to spend drops drastically. You don't have to rely on willpower every month. The system does it for you. Over time, this structure completely changes your relationship with money. The future stops being an abstraction and becomes a concrete priority. You start to feel more secure, less anxious, and more clear in your decisions. People who build wealth aren't necessarily smarter. They've simply learned to respect the power of time. And those who learn to value the future inevitably build freedom in the present.